So, picture this. It's 1919. The world is just coming out of the most brutal war anyone had ever seen, the Great War. It was supposed to be the war to end all wars. But the peace treaty that was supposed to make that happen, well, it's now famous for pretty much guaranteeing the next one. Let's dig into how the Treaty of Versailles didn't just fail. It actually planted the seeds for World War II.
Right, so here's the big question. How could a peace treaty go so spectacularly wrong? The answer doesn't start with a handshake, that's for sure. It starts with a calculated act of revenge, all set in one of the most famous rooms in Europe.
You see, the Paris Peace Conference wasn't just some stuffy political meeting. Oh no, it was a performance. It was theater, and the stage, the Palace of Versailles, even the date it all kicked off, every single detail was chosen to send a very clear, very humiliating message to Germany.
I mean, just look at this. It's almost poetic, isn't it? On January 18th, 1871, Germany celebrates its new empire in the Hall of Mirrors right after crushing France. Flash forward exactly 48 years, to the day. And where do the Allies gather to carve up that same empire? You guessed it, the very same room. This was no coincidence. This was payback. And just in case anyone in the back didn't get the memo, the French president, Raymond Poincaré, spelled it out for them. With these words, he made it absolutely clear what this was all about. This conference wasn't about building a lasting peace. It was about punishment. Okay, so you've got this room packed with people from 27 different countries. But don't let that fool you. All the real power, all the actual decision-making was in the hands of just 3 guys. They were later known as the 3 old men. And their clashing ideas about what the future should look like, well, that was going to cause some serious problems.
All right, so who were they? First up, from the USA, you've got Woodrow Wilson, the tall old man. His goal? American world hegemony. Then there's Britain's Lloyd George, the fat old man. He was a bit more practical, wanting to keep a stable balance of power in Europe. And finally, from France, Georges Clemenceau, the white-bearded old man. He was almost 80, and he was driven by one thing and one thing only: French domination of Europe, which meant taking Germany apart, piece by piece. You can already see the problem here, right? 3 men, 3 totally conflicting goals. This was bound to be a mess.
Now, of course, it wasn't just those 3 guys in the room, but what happened to everybody else really tells you everything you need to know about who was actually calling the shots at this conference. So you had Japan, playing the part of the silent partner. They barely said a word, just sat there patiently waiting to be handed Germany's old colonies in Asia. Then there was Italy. Their prime minister got so fed up with being ignored that he dramatically stormed out, only to have to sheepishly come back when he realized nobody even noticed he was gone. And China, who was technically on the winning side, had their request to get their own territory back coldly rejected. The message was loud and clear. If you weren't one of the big dogs, your opinion didn't matter. So you throw all these massive egos and competing plans into a single room for 5 long months. What do you think you're going to get? Absolute chaos. The negotiations were just a mess of nasty arguments, pure stubbornness, and some moments that were frankly just bizarre. And right at the heart of all this drama was one major sticking point: the French Premier Clemenceau's complete and total obsession with getting his hands on Germany's industrial heartland, the Saar coal mines. His relentless, single-minded pursuit of this one thing led to one of the wildest scenes in diplomatic history. You're not gonna believe this. Clemenceau kept screaming, "Give me the Saar," at Britain's Lloyd George. At one point, Lloyd George tried to escape by making a run for the bathroom. So Clemenceau, this nearly 80-year-old man, literally chases him down and corners him. When Lloyd George escapes again and starts running around the long negotiating table, Clemenceau, well, he can't keep up. So he just throws his cane down and crawls across the top of the table to cut him off. And remember, these are the guys deciding the fate of the world. So, after 5 months of yelling, chasing each other around, and crawling on tables, they finally hammered out some kind of agreement. The only problem? It was a compromise that made absolutely no one happy. I mean, just look at the scorecard. Wilson didn't get his American-led world order. Clemenceau had to settle for a Germany that was hurt but still in one piece. And Lloyd George, who was worried about future wars, got exactly what he feared: a super resentful Germany and a France that was now way too powerful. In the end, the treaty was like a political orphan. Even its own creators didn't really want to claim it. But you know, as the ink was drying on this flawed document,
There was one man who saw it for exactly what it was. He knew all the anger and resentment that was baked into this treaty had an expiration date, and for him, that number was 20. 20 years.
That man was the Supreme Allied Commander himself, French Marshal Ferdinand Foch. He took one look at the final treaty and delivered this bone-chillingly accurate prediction. This is not peace, it is an armistice for 20 years. And you know what? He was right, almost to the month.
So the stage was set. The seeds for another war were planted. In our next explainer, we're going to dive into the specific terms of the treaty, the clauses that were called a death sentence, the ones that made Germany laugh with rage, and put it on a collision course with the rest of the world. You won't want to miss it.